So today I'm delighted to say that I'm in conversation with Amanda Peddle, and she's the Programme Curator of Inside Out Outreach Services for Young People. And she's also the author of Tam's Journey, a series of books for children. She has over 20 years in practitioner roles based in education, residential and therapeutic settings. And Tam's Journey introduces through storytelling and in really endearing characters how we process emotions and how this is the most normal part of our bodily functions. And as we move into the era of increased awareness of our emotional well-being and mental health and the impact that it has on ourselves and society as a whole, it becomes really clear that more ways of encouraging children to manage their emotional state is, really, really important, and it's really effective, and her books are in such an understandable way. So Amanda's books start off on Tam's Journey, offering a very warm and friendly and really caring approach to children's feelings so that they can open up some really great conversations and help children feel safe in talking about them. Her passion is to make all children and young people able to understand and accept their emotions rather than being afraid of them. So without further ado, thank you for joining me today, Amanda.
You're welcome. That was lovely. I don't think I need to say any more.
So tell us then, how did it all begin?
So about 23 years ago, my daughter was diagnosed with ADHD, and I wanted a job where I had the school holidays off, and I'd done quite a lot of volunteering work with children over the years, Girls Brigade, different schemes for disabled children where my mum helped out, and so I managed to blag myself a job as a teaching assistant. Because I'd been in the military, they thought I'd have really firm boundaries, and on my first week at a very sort of busy middle school, I was put in the class with the naughty kids, because you're the new TA, no one else, you get bunged into all the classes that everyone's waited for ages to get out of. And I started on the Monday, and on the Thursday I went into this class, and I could not understand for the life of me what all the fuss was about. And it was a bit of a light bulb moment, really, that, all right, so my daughter's got it. There's obviously a reason why I feel very comfortable with these children.
Yeah.
And I just never saw them as anything other than sort of the different levels of vulnerability. And I had a very natural affinity with children. So the journey started from there, really. It was sort of quite by accident, but that's where life took me.
Yeah. So then it's eventually led, hasn't it, to your practice, and then to Tam's project, and then Tam's books. So tell me a little bit about how those things came about then.
So I worked my way up the ladder in schools, up to head of year manager. I did a degree in supporting young people, which was various therapeutic approaches. I did a counselling course, and this real passion for children's behaviour being very much misunderstood grew and grew and grew, until I got to the point where I was so frustrated by being in a system that didn't enable sort of a really safe conversation around, or healthy conversation around, behaviour. So I decided, right, this is not for me anymore, and I went to move to working in children's home services.
Right.
And it was there that I realised that what I thought was challenging behaviour wasn't actually challenging behaviour, although it was quite high up on the list. And B, it wasn't anything to do with the school or the children's homes. I just didn't like systems.
Right, yeah. So you kind of kicked back.
And at the same time, one of my university lecturers had sort of highlighted the fact that ADHD oppositional could be a really good skill set, and that was potentially, this sort of family trait that had not been used effectively. My daughter had also been diagnosed with autism, so we were massively in the SEND journey, and the sort of frustrations of being in a professional role where I had every service at my feet and still not being able to get my child the help that she needed, sort of tied in with this real push to work between systems.
Yeah.
You know, and really support these families. So about 10 years ago, I went self-employed and set up the outreach services for young people. So schools, services would buy me in, and it was predominantly around working with families who hadn't really engaged anywhere. And it was using that relational safety work to be able to encourage a relationship for nothing other than to support their child's best interests.
Absolutely. So that there's support on the journey, you're not alone.
So it was that support. And it's and so that has been the sort of diving board then for everything else.
So Tam's project, tell us a little bit about that, because that then leads to Tam's journey.
So it's so one of the things that fascinated me the most when I was at university was we learn about the almond effect. So this concept of fight, flight, freeze, and it was taught to me in depth as one of our modules, and I just could not understand why this wasn't a conversation that everybody knew and understood, because it seemed fundamental to me that if every single part of our response was led by this, this mechanism that has been part of our evolution since
time began,
then why we were continually shaming and stigmatizing some of those responses for children and causing difficulties for them through the way we approached that. So I started, in the work that I did, I incorporated this, and I had various projects that we did. We did a project called All About Me, and we did a project called Inside Out just before Disney brought the film out. And so I wanted to come away from that a little bit because I didn't want it to mirror that. And, I walked around frustrated for quite a few years, telling everyone I was going to write a book and put this all in a book. And I'd been doing this the TAM project with young people, the Amazing Me, and some of them said, I said, oh, I'm going to write a book, blah 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 blah, and they all sort of went, you keep saying that, but you haven't done it, and without thinking, I said, well, it's really scary, and they went, yes.
And
because, so it actually led to an amazing conversation about role modeling, and I'm still in touch with some of those children now. And so I thought, right, okay, that was a real kick, really, then to go and to start to write the books. So to bring this, so my model is called the ERA model. So it's about emotional response awareness. Okay. I wanted to do what it said on the tin, because there's a lot of buzzwords out there. They filtered and diluted, and we are talking about the emotional response in the body. So we're not going to link it to anything else. We're talking about that part.
So how did you arrive at the characters then for Tam's journey? And what do you want the children to learn and understand from the stories?
So I think the character development, what happened on holiday, I've got a little notebook, and I sort of laid in the sun, and I scribbled a tiny little pencil character on a piece of paper that didn't look like much, and I put, this is Tam, and from that I got the stripy t-shirt, and I didn't want it to be a girl, because predominantly a lot of the visible behaviours do tend to be more from boys in my field. Girls seem to present slightly differently, and we are going to cover that further down the line. But my passion at the time when I started it was these really busy, loud, vibrant boys who just had no impulse control for whatever reason. And it sort of developed from there, really. So my daughter's friend is an illustrator, and she started doing some storyboards, and the first few she did was a bit too anime. I didn't want it to look like Ben 10 or particular anime characters, so we worked on that for a little while, and she just sent this little freckly face through one day, and my brothers have both got freckles,
And that was that.
so I was like, that's the one. I fell in love with the freckles.
So what do you want them to understand, though, from the stories? Because that's the messaging underneath. And who are the books aimed at, in terms of age?
Well, originally when I wrote them, that they were sort of aimed at the sort of year 5, sort of 9 to 10 age range, because developmentally, that's a good stage to start introducing ideas where you can attach the physiology to what goes on in the body. I've actually been shot out of the water quite significantly with that, because I've got nurseries that use it, and
yes,
my nan shared it in her nursing home. So with the, it's a conversation I've had with much older people, and my husband's granddad, and my uncle that's in his late 80s. It's I don't think there is an age range, and I think because everybody develops very differently, different family systems, different dynamics, I think it's a book that can be used in many, many places. And what I really want, so one of the first things children ask, once they've done no, one of the first things children ask is why.
Yes. Yeah.
And what we're very good at, I mean, language only came online about 150,000 years ago. What we're very good at is giving children many, many, many words to describe an emotional response. Okay. The initial emotional response is exactly that. It is a response to something in the environment. Okay. So to ask a child sometimes, how do you feel? What's going on for you? Comes this very stressful, I get a lot of very frustrated children who can't explain how they feel. And I think if the first conversation is understanding the physiology of what happens in the body, I think it's okay that we get to a point where we're able to go, I just feel, and I'm having a response. Because then you can look at what the body's doing. You can put an intervention in place in terms of breathing, calming, co-regulation. The words can come as part of a reflective process.
A bit later.
And I think from what I've witnessed over the years, this would reduce a huge amount of shame and stigmatized behavioral responses, because you're allowing space, you're reflecting positively, rather than push. And what often I see adults do is push a child into a fight and flight response, because the teacher or the adult or the carer requires an understanding. They need to understand why.
Yes.
And it's not about us, it is about the young person or the child. So to create a language, a story, a program, things that crossed all sorts of barriers and boundaries. With a storybook, you can take that between home and school, between therapeutic setting and home, between doctors and home. It's a language that requires no one to put their system onto it, and can be universally used as a very first conversation.
Gosh, how powerful. So tell us about book 1.
Okay, so book 1 introduces our young Tam. Oh, where am I? I've got to put it
there you go. Yeah.
So it introduces Tam, and he's off into the woods running because he's cross, and he bumps into a tree, and he's very upset and very stressed, and very, very cross with himself. And he meets a sloth called Hetty. And what she does is she sits with him while he calms. And then she teaches him how the brain and body communicate, what the amygdala does, where it is in the body, and how that then sends messages to the rest of the body and sets off this process of response. And he's calm, and she says, well, you know, if you want to come back again, you know, I can teach you some more about it. And he goes away feeling amazed, actually, that this is just his body doing what it's designed to do.
That's natural. It's normal.
It's natural. It's okay. It's okay. Yeah. And so that sort of introduces the idea. It introduces the sloth, and she's called Hetty. It introduces Tam and tells you a little bit about him. And that follows on then to the next book, The Middle. So you can see there's a trend here, isn't there? That we've got the beginning, and now we've got the middle. And then this is, he goes back, he goes to see Hetty, and he says, you know, I feel so much better since I saw you last, but, you know, I'm noticing my body's doing strange things. I keep getting red, I keep getting, you know, wobbly tummy. And so she then introduces to him the understanding of the physiology of the body. She teaches him how the heart, the lungs, and the tummy communicate with the brain to create all the physical feels, the sensory feels. And it's those sensations that create that response. It's that movement of blood around the body that makes everything shift and create sensations that we have attached names to. And sometimes we attach names to them for the children. Why are you cross? Why are you angry? You know, and sometimes they're not. That's our perception.
Right.
Yes. Angry, and they might actually be sad. You know, so we haven't done that exploration. So, you know, we could say, you know, what's the feeling? What's the sensation in your body?
Mm.
And then the third book, which is called The End with a question mark, really looks at the fact that there's no end to learning about ourselves, but it covers the ending of their relationship. What this book does is it explores, Tam's obviously gone back, he's feeling much better. His teacher's going to teach him interventions, but he doesn't know what they are. And this book explores the neurons, the role of the neurons and how they send messages, and how by creating interventions we can build some neural pathways, and they can be used in really healthy ways as an intervention. And then it sort of looks at the fact that although their journeys end in this journey of self-discovery is
never ending. Yeah.
And then that all ties into our next book. So
that's what I was going to say. So it's based on neuroscience as well, and engaging, you know, everybody, therapists, teachers, parents, kids themselves in understanding that. So what's next for you then in that case?
So our next book is called Connections, and this one looks at, so these first three books are a very, very simple, very basic introduction to the idea of promoting self-regulation. Okay.
Yeah.
And we can only do that if we are able to build co-regulated relationships. So this next book is called Connections, and the one after is called Bonding. So Connections looks at how the brain makes safe connections and how they can be healthy, and it links a little bit to the womb. And then the next book, Bonding, will explore that sort of womb to 3 years process of bonding. So we'll start to look at some of the science around early attachment. So
wow. So, I mean, and yet the stories themselves are so engaging, aren't they? You know, and yet there's all that deep and meaningful, really good stuff all around it, surrounding it. So who would you like to know about your books when they're listening and watching this video, do you reckon?
Everybody. Absolutely everybody. So we have actually got, so the programs, we do a level 1 story bag, and we've actually sold about 280 of those now into schools. So that's 280 schools in the country are using the story pack as an intervention, and it's a classroom pack. And we do a level 2 training program as well. So we've got now about 70 people who have trained to deliver the intervention on a 1-to-1 and small group work.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so next, with the next set of books, I'm working with some early years people now to create an early years pack. So we're looking at making these first books into a condensed mini book, very simple book that can be used with. So we have these plushies. We have a heart and a lung and a brain and a heart and a tummy.
Oh, they're gorgeous, aren't they?
And a neuron. So, you know, with younger ones and with the stories. So in the story pack, they all get a set of those, and making that sort of tactile, making that a tactile process. We've just had someone use the book in a play therapy study for a master's, and that evidence shows that using that understanding around how the body and brain works has sped up the play therapy process.
Really?
And it's effective. So we're just waiting for that to be published. I want to write a level 3 program, and I want to write a book about the whole journey. So they're ongoing projects. And we are about to launch a community interest company for our Time Together program, which is an online program that came about because of lockdown.
So where can people find out all about you, all about your books? I know obviously your lovely books are in the Sue Atkins Book Club, but where can they also find out about all these wonderful things that you're doing and plan to do?
I have got a website. It's insideoutosYP.co.uk. It's going to be updated around March because we're having a fancy new website done ready for the CIC launch. But there's a lot of information on there. Also, there's bits of information there about all of the theory behind the work, because this is not just something I've grabbed out of thin air. It links to so many different theories. And I have a Shopify shop. Pretty much if you put in Tam's Journey or Amanda Peddle, you'll find all the links. So we've got YouTube, we've got we've got Twitter, we've got Facebook, we've got Instagram, I've got TikTok actually, which gives me loads of points with the kids. One of my posts got 1,000 likes, and they're horrified that old lady TikTok actually has got likes. That's what.
So you've got to be where people are. You've got to hang out where they are and can access your stuff. I mean, it's amazing. And so if people just put in your name or put in Tam's Journey, it will all turn up. For parents, for you know, practitioners, for therapists, for anybody interested in this kind. And the books are so lovely and so, you know, easy to read together and then spin off and go in all these wonderful directions. So listen, Amanda, thank you so much for joining me today. And I'm delighted you're part of the Sue Atkins Book Club. And it's such a lovely thing. And thank you for all the hard work that you do making a difference.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It's been lovely to catch up.